We are qualified for Europa League, with a little thanks to Leipzig, who beat Freiburg in the DFB Pokal. Speaking of which, I need to get my hands on that trophy soon. Throughout the season, I served my scouts to unearth new talent for these transfer windows, and there are so many players on these lists. However, there is also recruitment focuses where they found nobody, which I still find hard to believe given the parameters I set. Jordan Siebatcheu was also named in the Bundesliga Team of the Year. As July comes around, we welcome 4 new players to the squad. Starting off with the oldest, we have Sekou Koita, who replaces Thiago Tomas as our backup striker that we got on a free transfer from Salzburg. Then we have Diamonde. I mentioned him last season, again a free transfer, but I simply couldn't turn him down, and he is easily now our best player in my opinion, and he's only 23. I then spent £1.6 million on a Serbian regen. His name is Milan Marjanovic, and at only age 18, he is an incredible player. I would probably loan out for the first team football, but he has a 17 for first touch and passing. And I found this guy through attribute searching, and this is how. Head to the player's search and set up 3 attributes you want in that player role. I wanted an attacking centre midfielder, so I went for passing, first touch and technique, and that already gave me loads of options, and then I changed the age down, and it gave me a lot of terrible players, but you will eventually find a gem in there. But of course, you need attribute masking off. And it's as easy as that. You literally pick 3 or 4 attributes within whatever position or role that you are searching for in the player search, and have a look. It will take you some time, but you might find some gems like I did with Marjanovic. The final player we spent the most money on at £12 million from Bayern Munich. Centre midfield, Noel Aseko Enkili, and I have 2 plans for him. He has great attributes and potential to be a fantastic midfielder, but I also need more players available at right back, and he already has good attributes for that also. I have adapted another tactic off the back of last season's 4-4-2, as we have some quality new centre midfielders in the club, and I wanted to get Cancellieri more involved after a very quiet first season, so I pushed him further forward. To my shock, Bayern Munich then put in an offer for Dortmund's best player. It just never something that I thought would ever see happening. Marjanovic has moved to fellow Bundesliga side Hamburg for the season as an important player. Aranya then picks up an injury and will miss the start of the season, so the new tactic might actually be what we have to go for. The usual first round of the DFB Pokal kicks off the season, and after they lost a player to a straight red early, we put 10 past them, warming us up for our first game of the season against Borussia Dortmund. We finally didn't get a difficult draw in the second round of the cup either. I told you this could be our year. So we start this season with a couple of players missing, but still an improvement from last season. And players like Omar Rakic have developed incredibly well since joining the club. And we won the game 1-0. We continued our good form within 5 minutes of the away trip to Hamburg, and the task of getting Cancellieri more involved was checked off when he scored a second. Uwe Jan, after his free kick goal, then set up Jordan before Hamburg got one back before half-time for a world-class finish. But we finished things off through Sekou Koita coming off the bench. Unfortunately, Diamonde broke his foot during this game and will be out for quite a long time. We've been given our fixtures for Europa League, and we do have a couple of really tricky games, ending with an away trip to Juventus. And we took our first loss of the season 3-2 to 10-man Freiburg through a very bizarre goal when it looked like we had the ball cleared. Against Augsburg, we had to switch back to the 4-4-2 because multiple injuries to our midfielders. Jordan Siebatcheu scored the worst penalty ever, and Augsburg came back and equalised in the 82nd minute, taking it around our goalkeeper. But with pretty much the last kick of the game, substitute Derlis Gonzalez volleyed home a beauty to clinch all 3 points. And Ryerson has also joined the injury list too. Our return to Europa League wasn't a happy one, as being 1-0 down, 2-1 up, we lost 4-2 to Trabzonspor. A 0-0 draw and a battering against Frankfurt, and September ended with 3 games without a win. Our injury list already for this season alone is horrendous, so I altered the training workload for the squad. Things looked a lot more comfortable in Europa League as we went 3-0 up against Bulgarian side CSKA Sofia, but they did come back to make it 3-2 in the end. Uwe Jan smacked in a late free kick to save a point against Hoffenheim. A combination of first terrible defending, our high pressing, and their awful goalkeeping led us to take our most comfortable 3 points yet in the Bundesliga. 4 different scorers and 4 very good goals from our point of view, just not theirs.
Come on, man! That's too easy!
Another win in Europa League, a 0-0 against Wolfsburg, and finally a second round win, the DFB Pokal. Cancellieri really is getting involved a lot more in his new role, including this phenomenal pass to find Jordan Siebatcheu. This game against Gladbach was another example of our pressing football, a fantastic quality that we've developed in the last couple of seasons, putting in another strong performance in a 3-1 win. Against Mainz, new signing Sekou Koita stepped up. Not only did he score a goal, but Mainz equalised in the 90th minute. And we needed a hero, and Sekou Koita was the guy when he was set free in the 95th minute to secure the 3 points. But this is where it all started to go wrong. We lost the game against FC Bayern Munich, as well as the next 2 Europa League games, putting us in 24th as it stands, the last position for qualification to the knockout stage. But after the 0-0 draw with Leipzig, which you would say is positive, we then lost our goalkeeper due to injury for a few weeks. And despite fighting through a 3-3 draw with Cologne, which can already be a hard match, we also lost Morten Thorsby to another long-term injury.
Piss off. Everything's going wrong. Everything's going wrong.
The board asked if I'd like to increase the transfer budget, and of course I agreed, so they upped it by 1.4 million. So with our injury list ever increasing, we have the first Berlin derby in a couple of seasons after Hertha were promoted. So I switched it up and I've gone attacking. 3 up top, very risky, but I think the fans will enjoy how much we go for it.
I will love it if we beat them. Love it.
And yet, with all that firepower and the derby, we only saw 1 goal, and that was Sekou Koita's back post cross for Jordan Siebatcheu to finish. This guy is such a legend. Our luck is turning as we draw lower league division side Heidenheim in the next round of the competition. Although we did drop 4 points in the next 2 league games with 2 draws, but we are still within striking distance of Champions League football as we move into the new year. But with results like this against Dortmund, I don't think we are ready for that just yet. And Heidenheim took us all the way to penalties in the DFB Pokal, and despite us going behind, we were just really lucky that Heidenheim completely bottled it. Terem Moffi's first minute goal is exactly what we needed against Hamburg to push on and win. This isn't good. That isn't great either, and yet another injury to one of our main players. When we pulled Monaco in the playoffs of Europa League, I thought it would be game over, but after our near post corner opener, Morten Thorsby's worldie caught me right off guard. Vanderson, who I'm a big fan of at Monaco, went on an unstoppable run, and his cutback found an eventual crucial goal in the first leg for Monaco. But in the second leg, when Boadu scored in the 6th minute, I then thought the dream was going to be all over, but on the 20th minute, from Monaco's bad touch, Terem Moffi pinched the ball and then did this. And we knock out Monaco. And yet again, we needed penalties to advance in the quarterfinals of the DFB Pokal against a lower division team. Now I know I'm not really making much of a big deal about this DFB Pokal run, but up until now, I haven't been as excited, but we're in the semi-finals. And we've just been drawn against Greuther Fürth. We've just completely crapped the bed in the league, although we did just beat Fürth 3-2, so that's a good sign. And look how late the equaliser and the winner was from Terem Moffi. And yes, that's 2 more injuries. Before that game, Terem Moffi had only scored 7 goals in the league, which was a little bit worrying in 20 games considering he's got 5 in the cup. So we are still only 2 points outside of European spots, but we can't just grasp any form in the league. So let's knock out Atalanta in Europa League instead. Although we do have 7 players missing.
I'm a fighter and not a quitter.
And Atalanta punished us when Ederson scored early, followed by Zapata not long after. But with a little bit of broken set-piece exploitation, which I know the comment section will absolutely love, we pulled one back. And then just from Uvejan's unreal cross, Sekou Koita levels it up in the first leg. Someone in the last episode asked me why I'm so bad at transfers. Okay. Unfortunately, an 88th minute goal from Pasalac and Atalanta ended our hopes. We gave such a good count of ourselves, but injuries have sucked our quality from this season. I mean, come on, some players have already been injured 5 times this season already. This 95th minute winner from Jordan Siebatcheu was so important, and by the way, what a header. Because that Mainz win is really our only positive in the league for a while. We are getting just slapped up before our semi-final as well. And so it is semi-final time, arguably our most important game of the season, to give us a shot at the trophy I desire most. And shockingly, we have almost a fully strengthened squad. And unfortunately, we took our league form onto the pitch as well, and Fürth actually scored the first goal. It took until the 83rd minute before we finally broke through with Terra Moffi and took the game to penalties, where after both teams scored 3 each, Goita first scored their 4th and Koita missed. Luckily, they missed the next penalty and it was sudden death that carried us on, but young Amad Diallo stepped up and Frederic Ronau didn't move, and ultimately his laziness put us into the final of the DFB Pokal, 3 penalty shootouts in a row. But as you can imagine, Bayern Munich made light work in their semi-final, winning 5-1. Now a game later, after losing to Cologne, our next match is the Berlin derby, and with a win we guarantee that Hertha are at least destined to play in the relegation playoff, if not worse. But with something to play for, Hertha Berlin struck in the first minute through Selke, who then decided to slap our player out of nowhere in no danger whatsoever and earn himself a red card in the 9th minute. Cheers, mates.
They could have been killed.
Which made our job a lot easier, and we didn't waste much time before Jordan Siabachu scored. Terra Moffi then put us ahead before half-time, and he extended in the second half before Lawrence Dell made it 4, and we laughed in their face. Unlucky. Let's cut to the chase. We finished in 9th place this season. That's not good enough. Hertha has survived relegation for now and won the first leg of the league playoff. So it's cup final time, and we are rocking our 4-4-2. FC Bayern Munich, still with Julian Nagelsmann in charge, look very similar to start off with, just adding Diogo Costa and Tapsoba to their lineup. And it does appear they are playing 3 centre-backs as well. But according to their lineups, they are actually playing a 4-2-3-1 with De Ligt in centre-mid, which I find quite interesting. We started things off with your favourite type of goal in just the 7th minute. And before we could even think about it being a fluke and start to worry, Jordan Siabachu scored again 3 minutes later from another Uwe Jan cross, and what a header it was as well. It took Bayern Munich a ton of piled on pressure, and eventually they pulled one back through Serge Gnabry's long-range strike. But again, before they could even think about equalising, we shocked them with an incredible move, putting in the performance of the season and winning the DFB Pokal for Union Berlin. We somehow pulled off an incredible performance when it was needed most and won my favourite trophy. And considering we barely got through the last 3 rounds, all on penalty shootouts after 3 1-1 draws, I think we can consider that a bloody miracle. But arguably the best point of that cup win is we actually qualify for Europa League next season, but with only £20 million to spend. Well, I think we possibly need a new goalkeeper and maybe a centre-back. But what do you think? Let me know down in the comments section. Make sure you are subscribed so you do not miss the next episode. Speaking of which, I'll stick it up on screen right now if it is out.